Good morning, traders. Hope you guys are having a great morning. Today's video, we're going to be doing a quick price action review of the Magnificent Seven along with the major indexes. If you guys appreciate this content, please like, subscribe, comment, maybe comment about some future content you would like to see. It's always greatly appreciated, but let's get into it. So Apple today. I wouldn't get bullish or bearish on Apple until you break above yesterday's high at 192.20 or the low of 189.58. I'm expecting more of range-bound consolidating activity on Apple just due to Microsoft and Google earnings. And also with Apple earnings coming up, when are they? The first, which is on Thursday. So I'm expecting a lot of consolidation these next few days. I mean, you might get a slow meltdown to 187.45, but I would say for now, I would just stay away from big tech overall. My personal opinion, it's really a 50-50 gamble at this point if they go up or down until that they give earnings and then guidance, because you could still beat earnings but get bad guidance, which could drop the stock as well. So it's really 50-50 because nobody really knows what the CEO is going to say besides the CEO himself or maybe Nancy Pelosi. She might know a few things. Microsoft. What I'm going to be looking on Microsoft is kind of the same thing with Apple. I'm expecting a lot of range bound. Personally, I'm not going to be in Microsoft. I'm not looking to really be in much of anything at this point. But what I would expect is if you miss earnings or give bad guidance, I would watch that 394, 384, 30 level. I think that's a possibility. Could get a gap down. If Microsoft beat earnings, gives positive guidance, you could get a push to 424.40. As you guys know, I'm all out of Microsoft. I'm not really looking to be in it through earnings. Just not worth it to me. Then we got NVIDIA. Let's see how we're doing pre-market. So NVIDIA pre-market is at 632. Let me just make sure. And it is. So we're really starting to push up. Let me just go to the day. Oh, wow. Let's go to the daily. So what I would watch on NVIDIA is, let's just say hypothetically we open at 632. I would look for a move to 640, 645, 650 possibly, but that's a little bit of a stretch. I doubt that we're going to move that high up. And then on the low side, what I would be interested in seeing is if we could hold the 5 EMA, which just shows, in my personal opinion, I think it shows relative strength of the stock. Personally, I exited NVIDIA on this candle right here on 124. So I'm all out in NVIDIA, but what I would expect is you might get a nice push in the morning, but a sell-off towards the afternoon. I wouldn't get bearish on NVIDIA personally. I just think anybody who's shorting NVIDIA is just asking for trouble. But I wouldn't look to short NVIDIA. Meta, let's see how we're doing. When are earnings on Meta? So that's Thursday as well. I'm kind of expecting the same thing with Meta, maybe some range-bound activity, just due to the fact that big tech earnings. I'm actually more surprised that NVIDIA wasn't range-bound pre-market, but I wouldn't be even surprised if NVIDIA stays choppy for most of the day. But on Meta, what I would watch is I wouldn't get bullish unless you can clear 403. And I wouldn't get bearish unless you can clear the low of 393.10. If you clear 393.10, you could get moved back to 390 on Meta. So that's something to watch. Tesla, I believe pre-market they were really pushing. Let me just make sure. Yeah, so Tesla, what I would be interested to see with Tesla, let's look to the weekly for a second. I mean, yes, if you could reclaim 194, that'd be big for the bulls. But I'm not convinced just because you're below all the major EMAs, which really shows that sellers have strength overall and they have control over the stock. And I think that's quite obvious just because of the price action too. But on Tesla, I mean, I don't trade them, but what I would watch is at 194 level. If you get above it, you could get a push back up to this gap right here. You get a gap fill at 207.90 roughly. But if you're below 194, I would remain bearish on Tesla. Google, let's see how we're doing. So we're at 154 right now. So we're still breaking to all-time highs. Volume's not half bad on that breakout, I'll say that much. And almost at any point in time, I would normally buy something like this. But to me, it's just with earnings coming out when today, isn't it today? Yeah, with earnings coming out today, it's just not worth it. It's a 50-50 gamble, especially if you're starting a new position. I mean, if you bought something like, I don't know, 127.90, then I can understand you holding it. That makes sense. Or if you just have a relatively very small position, makes sense. I wouldn't do it, but it makes more sense. But what I'll watch on Google is if you miss earnings, I'd watch 147.50, 141.42. If you beat earnings, you could get a push to 155, 160, 165 on Google. Let's see, on Amazon, see how we're moving pre-market. So we're at 161.65. So I'll put us where? Right about here. Well, we'll go here. So it puts us roughly here. So what I'd watch on Amazon, let's zoom out for a second. The next resistance level I really have is 164.06, which is a gap fill. So I'd watch that gap fill trade on Amazon. We have earnings when? On Thursday. So I would watch for some volatility in Amazon. I'm not looking to be in Amazon until one of two things happens. They report earnings, you get a major pullback. As long as they show a healthy pullback on the weekly, I might get into Amazon. Or if you break above all-time highs, then I'll also look to get into Amazon. It'll also be a nice high probability point to get in. But today I would watch to see if we get some consolidation. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets a little choppy on Amazon. SPX and the NASDAQ, what I would watch there is, well, let's go to the SPX. All right. So we did get a breakout technically yesterday. Not bad at all. Buyers definitely have control. But what I would be interested in seeing is if we can remain above 4,900 and if, let's just say hypothetically, FOMC goes well, earnings go well, we get a bull case scenario, I would watch a push to 5,000 on the S&P. If we get a more of a bearish tone from the Fed, let's just say Apple, Microsoft, and all the big names, big tech, miss earnings, and this is the bearish case scenario, I'd watch 4,700 and 4,800. I believe that if we get a bearish scenario, I believe a lot of people are going to panic, a lot of people are going to start taking profit, and a lot of people are going to start abandoning ship. It's going to get ugly. But bullish case, we could get a very big push. I just think personally that this is all overdone in my opinion. But NASDAQ, we barely were able to break out. I mean, it's still technically within a range, but I'd watch the 15.6 level. You get above 15.6, you could definitely push to 16,000 on the NASDAQ, which would definitely be a hell of a move. I'll say that much. So we'll just mark out 16,000. Let me put that in there. All right. So I'd watch 16,000, possibly on the NASDAQ, and then all-time highs if you get above there. That's the bullish case scenario. Bear case scenario, let's just say everything goes to complete crap. I would watch 15,000, and I would also watch 14.5 if things really start looking bad. I mean, you could get a bounce here, get a weird looking head and shoulders, or maybe even a double bottom if things really start to pull back hard. If FOMC goes bad and if big tech earnings went bad. But the current positions I'm holding at the moment is going to be, I'm currently holding Snow. I'll show you exactly where I got it. I got in right here on Snow. And previously from another trade that I placed on deck, I ended up messing up that trade. I wasn't patient enough with the price action, so because of that, I ended up letting go of a winning trade. Happens to the best of us, but that's why I held on to Snow. Normally, I would sell off a little bit of the position, but then again, it was above the 5 EMA, came right down to the breakout point of 200, remained above this zone. It just was retesting the highs, and it looks like it wants to proceed upward possibly. I'm not quite setting my stop to break even yet until I get a one-to-one trade on them. But what I'm watching on Snow is I'm watching for a possible move to 237 is my ideal target on Snow. My stop loss is at 193. DraftKings, we got a nice breakout yesterday. A very high volume, very nice. What I watch on DraftKings is my stop. Let me just put it in. So my stop on DraftKings is going to be, let's just see if I can get a percent here. I always run a 5% stop on for my stops. It just seems to be a nice number that works well. Alright, so we're going to set it to 38. So there we go. We'll set the stop for 38 on DraftKings, and then on Celsius I got my stop at 49.47. I really like how on Celsius you can see here that we're coming into this demand zone, and what does it always seem to respect that makes it pop? It seems to be the 200 EMA. So my idea was it came down to the 200 EMA and SMA. Every single time that you got a bounce, you got a decent amount of volume. And then yesterday we got a decent amount of volume too. So what I'm expecting is a quick bounce, because I believe this area doesn't have much liquidity. So I'm expecting a quick spike to either, oh shit. What I'm expecting is a quick spike to possibly 54 at first, and then ideally my price target is going to be 58 on Celsius. So that's what I'm looking for today, guys.